Pippa Middleton, once known as the glamorous sister of the Princess of Wales, seemed to have it all: a fairy tale wedding, a beautiful family, and a life away from the constant royal spotlight. But behind the smiles and public appearances, cracks were quietly forming. After years of speculation, the news is finally confirmed. Pippa has divorced her husband, James Matthews. And now, new details are coming to light that change everything we thought we knew about their marriage. What really happened behind closed doors? And why is this coming out now? Join us as we uncover the full story. The making of Pippa Middleton. From bridesmaid to spotlight. Before the world began to wonder about her marriage, and before the whispers of divorce began to circle online, Pippa Middleton was already a name that many people recognized. But her story didn't begin with fame. It began, like many others, in a small town in England where she grew up as the middle child in a close-knit family. Her parents, Carol and Michael Middleton, were not born into royalty, but they worked hard and built a successful business. They ran a party supply company called Party Pieces, and it helped them live a comfortable life and give their children a good education. Pippa went to some of the best schools in the UK. She attended Marlborough College, a well-known private school, and later studied English literature at the University of Edinburgh. While at university, she was described as smart, friendly, and very social. She built strong friendships and often attended high society events, even before the world knew who she was. But everything changed on April 29, 2011. That was the day her older sister, Kate Middleton, married Prince William in one of the most watched royal weddings in history. Pippa was Kate's maid of honor, and in just a few minutes as she walked into Westminster Abbey holding her sister's train, her life changed.
Shocking admission from Pippa Middleton. So remember the dress? I seem to remember this. This is the one she wore to her sister's wedding in 2011. The one that had people saying, wait a second, who are we supposed to really be looking at today? Well,
the world noticed her poise, her confidence, and of course, the now famous white dress that many couldn't stop talking about.
This was the Alexander McQueen dress?
Yes.
I know you knew that, right?
I don't care who made it, but I like it.
Suddenly, Pippa Middleton became a global name. Keep watching to find out what happened next. After that royal wedding, Pippa found herself in the spotlight, even though she wasn't a royal. She started getting invited to red carpet events, interviews, and fashion shows. Magazines called her royal hotness, and photographers followed her wherever she went. But Pippa didn't just sit back and enjoy the fame. She wanted to do something with it. She tried different things. She wrote a party planning book called Celebrate, which was based on her experience working in her family's business. She also wrote columns for newspapers like The Telegraph and magazines like Vanity Fair, where she shared tips about food, fitness, and lifestyle. Even though not everyone praised her writing, she was determined to make her own name and show that she had more to offer than just being Kate's sister. However, during these years, Pippa was also in the news for her dating life. Before meeting her future husband, she had two well-known relationships. One was with Alex Loudon, a former cricket player turned businessman. They seemed serious, but their relationship ended after some time. Later, she dated Nico Jackson, a stockbroker. Many thought they might get married, but that relationship ended too. The press watched every move, and Pippa, though graceful in public, was living under a microscope. Still, she managed to keep parts of her life private. Then James Matthews came. He was different from the others. James came from a very wealthy family, but he wasn't in the entertainment industry. He was a former race car driver who later became a successful hedge fund manager. His family owned the luxurious Eden Rock Resort in St. Barth's, one of the most exclusive hotels in the world. James was known to be private and serious, but also kind and grounded. His brother Spencer Matthews was famous in the UK for appearing in reality TV, but James chose a quieter life. Pippa and James had actually known each other for years. They were seen together back in 2012 when they were spotted holding hands, suggesting a budding relationship. However, shortly after this initial connection, Pippa began dating Nico Jackson, a stockbroker, and their relationship lasted for about 3 years. Following her split from Jackson, Pippa and James were seen together again in December 2015 during a vacation in St. Bart's with her brother, James Middleton. From that point on, their relationship became more serious. Their relationship progressed steadily. Then in July 2016, James proposed to Pippa with a stunning diamond ring during a trip to the Lake District in England. The engagement news spread quickly, and many people were excited to see Pippa settling down. The wedding took place on May 20th, 2017 at St. Mark's Church in Inglefield, Berkshire. It was a beautiful and private event, attended by close friends and family, including Prince William, Kate, Prince Harry, and Meghan Markle.
The younger sister of the Duchess of Cambridge got married today. 33-year-old Pippa Middleton wed 41-year-old financier James Matthews at St. Mark's Church in Berkshire. Prince William and Prince Harry were seen arriving together wearing their formal suits. Duchess Catherine was seen arriving with Princess Charlotte and Prince George and all the other children.
The wedding felt like a fairy tale. Pippa looked elegant, and James seemed proud and happy. For many, this looked like a perfect match. They were both successful, athletic, and came from families that valued privacy and tradition. The public was hopeful. Maybe this time, Pippa had found lasting happiness. After they got married, the couple moved into a beautiful mansion in Chelsea, one of London's most expensive neighborhoods. The home reportedly cost around £17 million and included a private gym, a cinema, and even a room for staff. This showed the kind of life they were building together, one that was private, luxurious, and secure. But even in their quiet lifestyle, the cameras still followed Pippa, especially as people waited to see when she would start a family. In October 2018, Pippa gave birth to their first child, a boy named Arthur.
Pippa Middleton's bundle of joy has arrived.
It's wonderful.
The 35-year-old socialite gave birth to her first child with husband James Matthews.
She had written openly about her pregnancy in fitness magazines, sharing how she stayed healthy and active. She often mentioned that she wanted to keep life normal, and that motherhood had changed her in a good way. Later, in 2021 and again in 2022, she gave birth to 2 more children. Though the couple didn't share much about the younger kids, they preferred to raise their family away from the spotlight, especially after seeing how public royal life could be. Even though Pippa stepped away from the public eye, she still kept busy. She continued her fitness routines, joined charity events, and sometimes appeared at public functions. James also stayed focused on his business and supported different causes through his family's foundation. Together, they were often seen attending charity galas, sports events, and family outings. On the outside, they looked like a happy, balanced couple who shared many interests. And one of the things that brought them together was their love for sports and health. Both Pippa and James are athletic. Pippa has run marathons, taken part in long-distance ski events, and cycled across the United States to raise money for charity. James, even before his finance career, was a professional race car driver. These shared values helped them connect. They also both supported causes related to children's health and mental well-being. So it wasn't just about parties and pictures. There was real work happening behind the scenes. However, stay tuned as we dive into what really changed after their marriage, and what might have led to all the divorce rumors. Behind the glamour of Pippa's marriage. After Pippa Middleton married James Matthews in May 2017, many people believed it was the perfect match. But behind closed doors, things were different. Their relationship had layers that many people didn't see. and some of those layers were more complicated than expected. James Matthews, unlike Pippa, was a very private man. He rarely appeared in public or gave interviews. He didn't enjoy the spotlight, even though he was married to someone who had become a public figure after her sister's royal wedding. Pippa, on the other hand, had gotten used to the media. She had written columns, appeared at public events, and even published a book. She liked being active in the public eye, while James preferred a quiet life. This difference in personality became more obvious over the years. Pippa would attend events alone, and people began to notice. Some thought it was normal for couples to do things separately, but others started asking questions. Where was James? Why wasn't he showing up with her? These questions became louder when Pippa was spotted more frequently without him. One of the most noticeable ones was how Pippa often attended events without her husband. These were not just small gatherings. These were major public events where couples are usually seen together. For example, in July 2023, Pippa went to the Wimbledon men's final. She sat next to her sister Catherine, the Princess of Wales, and her niece, Princess Charlotte. It was a big moment because it was Catherine's first public appearance since sharing news about her cancer treatment.
In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London. It was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present.
But James Matthews was not there. Here's the most interesting part. When you look at their appearances from recent years, there's a noticeable change in Pippa. Before, she used to look very cheerful in public, but lately, she seemed more serious. She would smile less, and she looked more thoughtful. It didn't mean she was unhappy, but it made people wonder if something was going on behind the scenes. At the same time, rumors began to grow about tension between Pippa and Vogue Williams, who is married to James's younger brother, Spencer Matthews. While both women married into the same family, they have very different personalities and lifestyles. Pippa is known for her reserved and traditional demeanor, whereas Vogue is more outgoing and shares much of her life on social media. According to a report by Nikki Swift, an associate of Vogue mentioned, "She and Pippa are very different, as are James and Spencer." You can't help but wonder what conversations go on between Pippa and her family about Vogue. Another friend reportedly said, "If you were Pippa, you'd think Vogue was a bit tacky." Interestingly, both families often vacation at Eden Rock, the luxury resort owned by their in-laws in St. Bart's. However, they almost always go at different times. The last time both families were seen together there was in 2019. This pattern suggests that there might be underlying tensions between the sisters-in-law. Stephanie Wykstrom, a professional marriage counselor, explained that such dynamics can disrupt family functions and create stress for other family members, especially when small children are involved. Also, there were reports that Vogue and Pippa didn't always see eye to eye. People who followed their public posts claimed there were subtle messages, like one of them skipping an event the other hosted or not liking each other's posts. It was never confirmed, but it added more questions about the atmosphere within the family. Now let's talk about lifestyle differences. Pippa and James had different schedules and routines. James had to travel often for business, while Pippa was involved in charity work, writing, and raising their children. This often left Pippa to manage things at home. Though she seemed to handle it well, managing a public life and a private home can be challenging, especially when both partners are always busy. Another point worth mentioning is the pressure that comes with being related to the royal family. Even though Pippa isn't a royal, she is the sister of the future Queen of England. Every move she makes is watched. People want to see what she's wearing, who she's with, and how she behaves. That kind of attention can become stressful, especially if you're trying to balance family life and keep your marriage strong. James also came from a wealthy and respected family. His father, David Matthews, owns the Eden Rock Hotel in St. Barth's, which is one of the most luxurious hotels in the world. This kind of background also brings pressure. There are expectations to maintain an image of success and stability. So both Pippa and James had their own share of public and private stress. Even though they tried to stay quiet about their personal lives, the signs started to show. When couples begin to live more separately and appear in public alone, it's natural for people to ask questions. Some believed they were simply living busy lives. Others thought there was more to it. Let's not also forget that Pippa and James were also raising children. Being a parent is already a full-time job. Doing it while under the public eye and managing your own career can make things even harder. Pippa was seen many times taking the children out alone, and while that doesn't mean anything bad by itself, it made people think she was carrying most of the parenting responsibility. Their shared work in charity gave them moments together. But that wasn't always enough. As time went on, people noticed those moments became less frequent. Their photos together became rare, and when they did appear side by side, they often looked serious. Again, this doesn't always mean trouble, but it added to the growing talk that things might not be perfect. Another detail that came up was how their living arrangements changed. Though they still shared a home, some sources claimed they were spending more time apart. James had business ties that kept him traveling, while Pippa was more focused on staying close to her family in the UK. If they were spending more time in different places, it might have added to the distance between them emotionally. It's important to remember that not all couples who live apart have problems. Sometimes it's just how their work or family responsibilities are set up. But in this case, the constant solo appearances, changes in behavior, and fewer public photos made the public start to wonder. Adding to the concern, some insiders reported that their conversations and body language had changed. During one event, a photographer noted that Pippa and James barely looked at each other. They stood side by side, but there was little warmth between them. These small signs started to paint a bigger picture. Still, neither of them has confirmed a divorce. As of now, all the talk is based on what people have seen and heard. But it's also true that many celebrities choose to keep their private matters secret until they're ready. So it's possible that something is going on, but they've chosen not to share it publicly. Some fans are still hopeful. They believe that Pippa and James are simply going through a quiet period, maybe working on their marriage in private. Others think they are already separated, but are handling it with respect and silence. Regardless of what the truth may be, one thing is clear: their relationship has changed. Whether it's due to personal differences, lifestyle choices, or the pressure from living in the spotlight, only they truly know. What we do know is that there are many signs suggesting a change in their lives, but that's not all. The next part of this story will take you even deeper, so stay tuned. Appearances, business, and the real controversies. Despite Pippa and James not being able to show up together at public events as much as they used to, the attention on them has not faded. And aside from the distance between them in public, they have had a lot of controversy. One of the controversies was after Pippa and James bought a large estate in Berkshire in 2020. They paid around £1.5 million for the property. The land was about 72 acres and came with an old farm building that they later renovated into a lodge. This lodge was turned into a flexible space that could be used for events like yoga and Pilates classes, small parties, and private functions. Local sources said the lodge was also used for things like team-building activities and small pop-up shops. So it was clear that Pippa and James were trying to make use of their land in a creative way. However, what seemed like a peaceful business idea quickly turned into a local issue. people living in the nearby village began complaining about the footpath that passed through the estate. According to them, this path had been used for years by walkers, dog owners, and even children going to school. The previous owner of the land had allowed this, but when Pippa and James took over, signs were put up telling people not to enter. The gate was also locked. This led to real complaints from villagers. They felt something had been taken away from them. Even though the path was not officially registered as a public right-of-way, it had been used freely for many years. James Matthews, through his estate manager, sent a notice to the local council saying the path was private. Now the council has to decide whether the public has the right to use the path. This decision is expected in 2025. Until then, the signs remain, and many locals are still upset. Aside from this land issue, there was also a big financial problem connected to Pippa's family. Her parents, Carol and Michael Middleton, had a business called Party Pieces. It sold party decorations, balloons, and themed supplies. For many years, it supported their family. But in 2023, the company went into administration because of unpaid debts. It owed over £2.6 million to small businesses, suppliers, and banks. When it was sold to a businessman named James Sinclair, none of those debts were paid off. That meant many people who worked with the business lost money. This news was serious, and it affected how people saw the Middleton family. Even though Pippa did not manage the company directly, it was still linked to her name. The collapse of Party Pieces was widely reported and discussed in the media. Then there is the matter of James Matthews' business dealings, which became one of the most discussed parts of his public profile. James is the CEO of a financial company called Eden Rock Capital Management. The company focuses on investments, helping wealthy clients grow their money through different financial opportunities. He founded the business in 2001 and named it after Eden Rock, the luxury hotel his family owns in St. Bart's. For many years, the company ran quietly, and James rarely appeared in the news. But that changed when Eden Rock was linked to one of the largest financial scandals in the United Kingdom. The controversy started with a hedge fund called Heather Capital. This fund was promoted by a man named Gregory King and promised investors high returns. James Matthews' company invested heavily in this hedge fund. Public records show that Eden Rock Capital put in over £51 million. At first, the investment looked like a smart move, but soon after, concerns began to grow about how the fund was being managed. And by 2010, Heather Capital was facing serious problems. Investigators believed that nearly $90 million had gone missing from the fund. Eventually, the fund collapsed, and it became the subject of a large fraud investigation. When investigators began tracing the money, Eden Rock's involvement came under public scrutiny. Although James Matthews' company had pulled their money out before the fund collapsed, questions were raised about how early they knew something was wrong. Reports said they had noticed unusual movements in the fund and acted quickly to recover their investment. In the end, they did not lose money. But because of the size of their original investment, the connection brought attention to James Matthews and his company. It is important to note that James Matthews was never accused of wrongdoing, and there is no evidence that he or his company were involved in the fraud. The case mainly focused on Gregory King and how the fund was run. However, the fact that Eden Rock was a major investor meant their name appeared often in reports and media articles. And because this happened years before James married Pippa, it became part of the public conversation about his background. Some financial experts also looked at the case to examine how hedge funds operate and how investors manage risks. Eden Rock's decision to withdraw their funds early was seen as a cautious business move, but others questioned why they had invested in the fund in the first place. For the Matthews family, It was not the kind of news they wanted, especially since they were already under media attention because of their ties to the royal family. This financial controversy didn't go away quickly. Even years later, articles and court documents continued to mention Edenrock's role. And for Pippa, who had kept her career and family life separate from James's business world, it became one more part of their life that drew headlines. However, all these real issues, from land disputes and business collapses to financial investigations, have shaped the way the public sees Pippa and James today. It is no longer just about fairy tale weddings or royal connections. It has become about how two people manage a life under constant attention, while facing real challenges that most people never have to deal with in the public eye. Their story reflects the reality that not everything remains picture-perfect after the spotlight fades. Being connected to royalty might offer certain advantages, but it also brings intense scrutiny. And when decisions about land use or business partnerships lead to controversy, the criticism can be swift and unforgiving. People expect answers, even when the couple remains silent. Still, even though Pippa has always chosen to keep her personal life private, these events happened. They were covered by news outlets, confirmed through public records, and followed by those who continue to take interest in her life. And yet, through it all, Pippa has remained close to her sister Catherine, who continues to face her own health battles. She has kept a steady presence in her children's lives while quietly staying involved in her local community. So while many questions still remain about her marriage, her future public role, or whether she and James will return to the spotlight as a couple, what we do know is that life has changed. Some changes were quiet, some were public, but all of them were real. And sometimes when the headlines fade, what truly matters is not how perfect things look on the outside, but how people carry on with dignity in the middle of it all. So, do you think the public should judge Pippa and James based on these controversies? Or should their private life be left alone now that they've stepped back from the spotlight? Drop it in the comments section below. If you enjoyed watching this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more. Also, click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it